In this video, we're going to go over prospect training, but we're going to go over the technical aspect of prospect training. So how to fill out a guest card and enter the prospect into Rent Manager. Okay, every agent should have a leasing binder. It's a place where you keep your guest cards. You need to have a pen nearby it. You can also keep competition from other area apartment complexes, your rates, different amenities that you offer, all of that. It's something that you should be able to tailor to each agent. And it also needs to look professional as well, because it's something that sits on your desk and is a visual. This is a good place to keep follow-up on all your leads, make notes on cards, remove dead or lost leads. You also need to, if you need to store anything elsewhere, to keep your binder updated, but every agent should have one. Your training manual goes over exactly how to set up a training binder, but just to go over a couple key points right now. So each agent, again, should have one. A guest card should be in there. It should be big enough to house, a 3-inch binder is pretty big if you anticipate a lot of traffic. And also going to depend on how often the leasing agent works, if they're working 15 hours a week or if they're working 40 hours a week. Guest card binder should also be divided into 15 tabs. Now this can be adjusted based again on how often the leasing agent works, or the style of property it is. You should be able to have your appointments in there, a pending follow-up tab, a tab for each of the month in case you want to keep track of all your traffic for that year, and an area for your lost leads. Now depending on your property, you could have if you only have 2 agents, you could have it set up as one guest card binder that you keep all the basic stuff in, especially if you're with a student housing property, and often the agents share each other's prospects. Really just depends on how it works best for your property, but as long as an agent has an individual binder where they can keep all their traffic personally in there, that's all you need. Alright, so making contact with the prospects. You're going to use a guest card. Foresight has a guest card already made. It's on a little bit thicker cardstock, so it's pretty nice. If you ever need more guest cards, just shoot me an email at apreby@foresight, and I can order you like another 100 for your property. I also have a PDF of it, so if you run out and you forgot to let me know, at least you can have something while you're waiting for your new ones to come in. So use the guest card as a guide for questions, especially if they call, so you know what you need to ask for. Sometimes people space out in a phone conversation, so you can kind of see what information you haven't gathered yet. Take good notes. Make sure you're putting the reason for locating, what things they're looking for in an apartment. It's great to use this type of guest card for that. Set up a visit if you can. If it was a phone call or email, try to get them in the door. Put what day they contact you. Do not let the prospect fill out the guest card, though. It's very unprofessional. Make sure you do it. It makes them feel like you care, and gets you to be a little bit more conversational with the prospect. Your guest card binder. This is going to be where you stick it in, and you'll follow up. So after you do it all, you're going to have your follow-up history in here. You'll have all this in Rent Manager as well, but it's a good handwritten notes for it to see where you're at visually. Keep your appointments and your guest cards in there. Figure out what you need. Put them in the pending follow-up section of your guest binder. If you need to send thank yous or contact them in a couple days to see if they're still thinking about living in your community, all of that. Okay, so you have your guest card. It's all filled out. Now actually putting it in a Rent Manager. So to enter it in a Rent Manager, it's pretty easy. You do want to make sure that you enter all traffic the same day that you get it. It's very important for reporting wise. Your box score updates that your managers run and send to your regional managers every week. That's going to show exactly how many phone calls each agent received, how many emails, how many visits and appointments that they had scheduled, how many leases they had signed, what traffic is being used to get in the source, or what sources are being used for the traffic. All of that. We use all that information, and this is important to put in a Rent Manager because that's how it's populating these reports. You want to make sure you click Prospect up here. And then you're going to come into this Prospects tab, hit Add New Prospect, and you're going to select your correct property. It's important to do that in case you have multiple properties on your Rent Manager. Okay, so you're going to input as much information as possible. The 3 biggest things that you should put in is your first and last name, their contact info, and their lead source. Those are really important for us to find out, hey, what's marketing sources are working best for us. If the source isn't there, double check, make sure it's not there, and you can always add the source if you need to. If you can find out any of this other information right away, that's great. Again, put your comments that you had in your guest card in there so you can kind of relate it to what's going on. It relates to the prospects better. And the agent, you need to select the name of the agent that worked with that prospect, whether it was yourself or if you're doing this for somebody else. Okay. And again, any comments to help them remind you of the prospect. If you're getting multiple calls a day, it's really nice to know, oh, it's the person that had the cat, or oh, it's their kid goes to the same elementary school mine does. Okay. You're going to also, after you hit next, enter in your expected move-in date. Do not put the move-out date. Reason being, if you ever forget to take that out, if they do move in, it's going to automatically move them out, and we don't want that. So you want to just make sure to leave that blank. Your primary address. You should be able to get that if they come and take a tour, because you're going to take a copy of get a copy of their photo ID and keep that on them. So that's a good way of getting their primary address if you forget to ask. You're going to also state what their contact was with this first initial contact. Was it a call, a visit, or an email? What day and the time was it on? A description maybe was accomplished. They're calling about April availability. Another big thing you want to do is make sure you check the spoke with prospect box. It's very important. If you don't check that, and this goes for any activity, if you don't check that you spoke with them, it's not going to show up on the box score. So we have a lot of properties that say they have 30, 40 phone calls a week, but they're only showing 2 or 3 calls on their box score. This would be why if they don't check this. Even if you send an email, always check spoke with prospect. After you fill this out, you're going to hit next. If you've gathered some of the information, such as how many people are living in the apartment, what's their rent range, what style that they want, you can go ahead and fill that out. If there was any amenities like a garage, or they wanted furniture, and that's listed here, you can also check that. Or any other user-defined fields. Hit next. Unless you have a visitor that comes in, pays the application fee, screen all at the same time, you're probably not going to fill this out right away. This is where you can actually pick what unit that they want to be in. You can't assign them to a unit until they've actually paid an application fee and a security deposit or whatever they need to do based on your property. So you need to make sure, don't check this unless you have that already done. Sometimes you will have that happen, which is why I'm showing this to you. Or you can just see, hey, this is what we have available right now. The next is kind of the event information and the prospect interest. So this is a gauge level here. One would be not very interested, or it doesn't meet their needs. So for instance, if you're at a Section 240 or Section 42 property, and the person's not going to be qualified for Section 42, then you probably are going to put 1 because it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to live here. But we still want to show that they came in, they were interested in the property. 10 is, they would move in yesterday if they could. You also want to make sure if an appointment was set, to set this all up, schedule an appointment, start end time, to an apartment. This will populate in Rent Manager and also show that you had an appointment scheduled. This will also set up as a reminder, 15 minutes. You can also do an appointment color. So if it's a prospect so-and-so is working with, you can change it to pink or purple or whatever you want. Again, check with your property manager how they want this done. And go ahead and hit finish when you're done. Okay, so if you schedule the appointment after you initially input the prospect. So they came back. So you called them and then they came, visited, and now you need to add an appointment, or they came back, called back, and wants to add an appointment after you already entered them in Rent Manager. It's simply, you just find them in the prospect tab here, and you're going to click add appointment. This little screen is going to pop up. You'll type in your subject, 2-bedroom tour, the start time, end time approximately. You're going to show them what model, or what are you going to specifically show them and go over with them at this appointment. You can link it to the customer or the prospect. You can also link into a vendor or an issue if you need to too. What agent is going to be doing this? You can check multiple too as well. You can set this as a reoccurring appointment too if you want to set up a follow-up, but usually you're not going to use this tab. Pick what the reminder you want and hit save. Pretty easy. This is a reminder, if the appointment is for another associate, you want to make sure that they know of the appointment. It is going to show up on the reminders in Rent Manager, but it's also nice to let them know, and we'll go into that in a minute. Okay, so this is what else you can do on the prospect tab. You can add a to-do list, so if you need to send them a thank you, which you should be doing, a thank you for coming and visiting the property, you can set that up there. You can add a call and add a visit, add an email, add a note. Again, the little spoke with prospect box is going to show up, so you want to make sure you check that. It's very important to enter in all your activity for a prospect and for a resident, for that matter. You know, to know what you told them, know what was talked about, how often you're following up with them, if they're really interested. If you tried reaching out to them, phone calls and emails 3 or 4 times, and you haven't heard from them in 2 months, they're probably going to be, it's probably time to switch them to a lost prospect. You can also, you know, add up follow-ups here to do, in the to-do list. That'll show up as a reminder. Another thing too is the transaction tab works just like it does in a current tab if you need to charge an application fee or anything like that. Also, if you've screened a resident, this is a good way to say we've screened this resident, passed, failed, whatnot. Okay, so after entering the prospect, keep your guest cards in the appointment section of the guest card binder if they've set up an appointment. If they're going to need a follow-up after they visited, make sure you put it in pending follow-up. If you've scheduled a future appointment for them to come check out something else, make sure you set a little 30 minutes, call them 30 minutes ahead of time. You know, see if they need directions is a good way to make sure that they're actually showing and coming up. If they're late, give them 15 minutes, then call and see if they're lost or they need to reschedule. Make sure to document all calls, emails, everything in Rent Manager, like clicking Add Call or, you know, Add Visit or Add Email to the Activity tab. If you schedule an appointment for a time when you will not be in the office, make sure the prospective resident knows who to ask for when they arrive, so they're not clueless. Also, make sure you let the associate know who's going to handle a tour. You know, for that appointment, so they know. You can even send them an Outlook calendar reminder. If you ever need any help on knowing how to do that, let me know, but it's great to send to the agent they're going to work with and the prospect as a reminder for them. Most people have emails on their phones and calendars, so with Google and all that, so it's easy to set it up that way. Okay, so during the tour, we're not going to really go over like how you know, market and really make a sale. Again, this is more the technical aspects. But you're going to want to make sure you take photo identification. This is a big safety reason. You've got to take photo IDs. I always suggest making a copy of it so you have all their information to keep in their file. You can write that way. You're not writing their ID number right on that guest card. It's a little easier because you usually walk away with their ID, put it in the manager's office in an ID box, and you're usually passing the copy machine on the way there, so it's easier just to make a copy of it and put it in the box. Another reason you want to collect their ID is it's just a good reason for the prospect to come back to the office. They need their driver's license. So that's another way of trying to close a sale or answering any further questions that they have. So after the prospect leaves, you're going to enter in all the info from the guest card into Rent Manager, add the visit, what was accomplished, schedule a follow-up. You can enter in all activity going forward with that prospect to see what how you're working, what you're doing, to show that your regional and property managers, you know, you're staying on task, you're doing what you need to do. And also plan to send a thank you either for an email or a letter. It makes it more personable. How to change a prospect status. I get this all the time, so I just wanted to go over it really briefly with you. How to change a prospect status is you're on the prospect page. You're going to go to status over in the miscellaneous column and hit change. You're going to get 3 different options, either customer, lost, or lost rejected. So which one do you pick? So if it's a current, if you're moving them to a current or a customer, you are going to, they're going to have paid the deposit. They're going to have to pass a screening and pay an application fee or whatever you require at your property. Now a lost, when you move into lost, it's that they've either requested no longer to be contacted or we've received no response from them following 90 days after follow-ups. So we haven't heard anything from them in 90 days. Now, you know, you might change that based on property to property, but that's kind of a good rule to follow. Lost rejected, that's simply an applicant was denied due because they didn't meet rental criteria from management. So you would put they were rejected by us. And that's all we have today on prospect training for the technical side of it. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact April, and I can help you with anything else. Have a great day.